Hello, and welcome to R Slash Maliciouscompliance. Let's take a look at some new Reddit stories. The first story is called, Just Hit the Key. I don't think that's a good idea, Grandpa. From my teenage years, once upon a time, I owned a 1988 Isuzu Trooper. I loved that vehicle, and I put it through hell. Put up with it for a long time, but a trip through Death Valley was the final straw, and it blew the head gasket. I loved this vehicle, so I wanted to keep it. I towed it to my grandfather's house as he had an amazing garage. This man taught me an amazing amount. He was also in the pump field and a master machinist. He was also a Navy boxing champion, about 5'6", bushy white hair and a beard, built like a brick house with a bottom line you did not want to cross. Love Grandpa, but don't make him mad. Anyways, I get to his garage and tell him what happened. We order a replacement cylinder head, gaskets, bolts, and I go to start taking it apart. He stops me. Grandfather, where's it blown? Me? Grandfather, which cylinder is leaking? Me. I don't know, I was just going to pull the head. Grandfather, no, first we'll run a scope into the engine and see if it's worth saving, but we need to locate the blow. Pull the spark plugs. So I do. A few minutes later, all the spark plugs are pulled, but even with a flashlight, we can't see well enough. My grandfather looks at me. Grandfather, turn it over. Me. Grandpa, I don't know if that's a good idea. He cuts me off. Grandfather, I said turn it over. Me. Grandpa, it might be He cuts me off again. Grandfather, boy, I said turn it over now. Me. Okay. He leans in close to the engine, over the fender with his flashlight, and I hop in and hit the starter. My grandfather is greeted with a face full of oil, coolant blasting out of the number 3 cylinder. He stands up with his face, hair, and beard covered and dripping in a wonderful brown-green sludgy mixture, slowly pulls a rag out of his pocket, and wipes down his eyes and face. I'm trying to keep a straight face. He turns to face me and looks directly into my eyes, beard still dripping. Grandfather, I better not hear a effing word out of you, boy. Me. Yes, sir. Brilliance in marketing. Around 1990, I was working for a tiny division of a huge computer company. Our business was to buy components like memory sticks and network cards from other manufacturers, put our company's name on them, and sell them through computer retailers at an obscene profit. These were the days when a lot of people only trusted a name brand. Sales of a particular widget were slow, so one of the marketing wizards came up with a great idea. He set up a special deal with one of the large retailers. After 30 days, we would buy back any that they couldn't sell. Within a month, we were shipping cases of these widgets to every one of the retailer's stores. Management was delighted, and the marketing guy got a huge bonus. I happened to go to one of the stores to buy ink for my printer and looked around for our product, couldn't find it. So I asked one of the employees. He said he'd never heard of the widget and showed me a similar product from another manufacturer. I said I really wanted our widget. Could he please ask a manager? At this point, I was assuming these widgets were flying off the shelves so fast they couldn't keep them in stock. The manager told me he did have some in the back room. If I really wanted one, it'd take a while since he had to dig one out of the shipping crate. I asked why they weren't on the shelf. He said that the product was basically overpriced junk that no one wants. I thanked him and left. The next day, I reported this to my manager. We did some investigation and figured out what had happened. Like every other manufacturer, we sold the product to the retailer at a wholesale price. The retailer then marked it up for retail sale. This special deal agreed to buy the widgets back not at the wholesale price, but at the suggested retail price. The retailer was just following the terms of his contract. He bought the widgets from us for $100, let them sit in a corner of his storeroom for a month, then sold them back to us for $150. Instant profit. My manager and I did what any loyal employee would do. We submitted a formal suggestion that we change the terms of the deal to buy them back at the wholesale price, thus saving the company thousands of dollars each month. We each got a nice check for 10% of the first month's savings. Can you hurry up, please? I'd like to go home. So this story happened at my first posting, again, Cold Lake, Alberta, except this time it wasn't the boss from the other post, but rather my first boss ever in the forces. Friday cleanups involve sweeping, mopping, lunch, then wash the vehicles and drive back to base unless it was crappy weather, then we wash the vehicles at the base. So we're on to a regular Friday in the summer of 2002, and everybody except me, my boss, and the other 2 master corporals are out at the range in the shop. Why so many supervisors for just one guy? We had a mission that morning, so we needed 2 teams on the ground. Our master corporal from the telemetry section came out to assist. After the mission was over, we broke for an early lunch and prepared for cleanup. Now, I was expecting that since I was the only private there, I hadn't been promoted to corporal yet, the master corporals would grab some brooms and mops and help me out. Instead, they all sat around talking. No biggie, we all have to pay our dues, right? If they're not in a hurry, then I'll do it all. And I don't even feel bad. I'm like being singled out because nobody else is out here. That is, of course, until my boss glances at his watch and makes an offhanded remark. Hey, buddy, you going to be at this all day? We need these floors mopped before we can get out of here. You know the rules. I pointedly look at the 3 mops to their right, my left, just sitting there untouched while I'm mopping a bay large enough to drive 2 vehicles in side by side, which also houses a giant camera you can sit on and swivel around. I'm looking at probably 45 minutes worth of mopping minimum. I didn't even return a snide remark. I simply said, "Yes, Master Corporal," and proceeded to painstakingly mop every single inch of the floor, changing the water out every time it turned gray, like every 2 minutes, to ensure I did a thorough and complete job. It took just over 90 minutes to complete, and we hadn't even gotten down to washing the vehicles, which they could have done in the vehicle bay while waiting. The best part was that my boss, who spent the ride back berating me for how slow I was being, reacted to me reminding him we still needed to wash both trucks. Being the only private, this dawned on him that I was likely going to take us well after 4 in the afternoon if he left it to me. He was right. I would have made those vehicles sparkle with my attention to detail, and decided to show me how to do it quickly after that. In short, this guy wanted to get out for the weekend at noon, but due to his own laziness and sense of entitlement, ended up leaving shortly after 3. We were still off early, but about 3 hours later than he was planning. Minor revenge, but as a pirate, I was willing to take what I could get. I don't want to pay for the Mai Tais. So recently I started working at a bar, and a few people came in and ordered 2 Mai Tais. The girl who usually makes cocktails was sick, so I had to try to make them myself just by following the instructions off the cocktail card that we had. It wasn't surprising that they didn't turn out quite as they should have, and the people returned them to me saying they didn't want to drink them. No problem, as I'd already printed the bill that included the cocktails. I just gave the whole table the next round of beers that they ordered on the house, which was slightly more expensive than the cocktails. As they were leaving and wanted to pay, they saw the Mai Tais on the bill, and the man who was paying told me he won't pay for that. I tried to explain to them that it isn't advisable for the staff to cancel bills that have already been printed, so I didn't charge them for the 5 beers they had later on. But he insisted they won't pay for the cocktails, so I got back to the register, canceled the cocktail bill, printed out a bill for 5 beers, and got back to their table. The man got confused when he saw that the price was higher now, as if I didn't explain it to him 2 minutes ago. But after a bit of mumbling in his beard, he finally paid for the bill he wanted to get. She wanted to complain to the manager's boss. My first post, and on mobile. Please forgive my errors. While in high school, I worked at a family-owned franchise of a national chain restaurant as a busboy, dishwasher, cook, host. Occasionally, the general and assistant manager would both need the same day off, and the owner's adult children would take turns filling in as manager. They were all young, youngest being 18, oldest being mid-20s, but polite, hardworking, and smart. This happened on one of those days. They had an all-you-can-eat buffet as an option for lunch one day. I overheard a lady complaining to the oldest son, who was acting as manager that day, that the buffet was horrible. She couldn't eat it and didn't want to pay. She was being loud and swearing at him, so I said, "Ma'am, you went to the buffet 4 times, and I cleared 4 empty plates off your table." The manager told her he would not remove the charge from her bill as she'd eaten multiple helpings and didn't complain until it was time to pay. She went apoplectic and demanded to speak to the manager. When he told her that he was the manager, she demanded to speak to his boss and that she would have his job. He pulled out his cell phone, dialed a number, and when the call connected, said loud enough for the customer to hear, "Mom, this lady wants you to fire me." Then he held the phone out to the customer. He didn't get fired, and that customer did not come back. But she did pay. You want the car? Have it. My sister recently came back from college in another state. Before she left, she had a car my dad bought for her, and she used for 1 year until she left, and I got my license in the meantime and started driving. When she came back, I had an ongoing internship and needed the car from 8:30 to about 1:30, which is usually when she wakes up. So no problem with me using the car at that time. But this time I had to run some errands after work and came back a little later than usual. While doing so, I got a call from an angry sister saying I should have asked before taking the car and that she asked my dad to buy that car for a reason and that I can't just simply take the car. My dad only gives me allowance for food and he pays for fuel to get me to my workplace. However, that hardly ever happens because he's hardly around and too tired to refuel the car, and I'm not old enough for a credit card, but my sister has one. She uses the car on a daily basis and refuses to use the card to refuel the car, and I've been paying for all the fuel myself just because she's lazy. After getting that phone call, I quickly did what I had to do and got home at about 4. She demands her car keys and repeats what she said on the phone. I wasn't mad. That car was for the both of us. And sure, I admit I should have told her I'd be late, but she was angry. Then I come to the realization that I've been paying for all that fuel, and she's been lazy the entire time she's been here. I usually play games until 2 or 3 a.m. with friends, but this time I skipped. I took the car at night and drove until the very last drop of fuel, till the last bar, and then the petrol sign. Since I don't get to have the car anymore, until my dad gets involved, of course, I took an Uber this time to work and let her use the car. It was too late when she realized she had no fuel at all and was on the highway far from a gas station. Wish I was there to see her face. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you for watching and see you again next time.